Greetings Internet, this is the River Don and today we're going to go on a walk that's known as the Five Weirs Walk. Can you guess why they call this the Five Weirs Walk? Leave your guesses down in the comments below. They've actually done up all the bank here very nicely. That used to be a road. To start with, we have to cross the Ladies' Bridge, which is one of the oldest crossings of the River Don within Sheffield city limits. Built in 1400 and something. 1486. Basically, all of Sheffield rivers end up joining the Don at some point along the line, but thanks to Victorian engineering, a lot of that happens underground below the city. That rather unassuming tunnel over there is all the water from the River Sheaf and the Port of Brock joining the River Don. But they disappear into random culverts over on the other side of the city and then just pop out here. You can even just about see the two types of water mixing. Here we get to go on what's known as the Spider Bridge, which is a bit of a sort of cool thing where we get to go under the railway tunnel but over the river on a little suspended walkway thing, complete with spiders. Did you manage to guess why this is called the Five Weirs Walk? Well, here is the first weir. More hidden culverts. I don't know where that one's coming from or whether it's just like a bridge, but it appears to be coming out from under there. Apparently the birds like this bit. In fact, it's surprisingly shallow. They're just stood there, not floating there. It all seems surprisingly calm at this point, but I also know that we're coming up upon weir number 2 fairly shortly. Oh nay, once upon a time I had a job in that building over there. It's been empty for years though now. There's another weird hanky out platform thing there. I don't know what that's all about. This one's not got any public access. The ways in are fenced off. We're just above that graffiti about music here. And then over the other side of that bridge, we have weir number 2. I don't know what those weird anchors in the wall are, probably to stop it from falling down while they're building on top of it or something. I'm going to be walking down the path over there in a moment. We've got to go a weird long way around these buildings to get there next. Well, let's go check anyway. Certainly noisy industry going on in these buildings, and some interesting looking rusty old stuff hiding away in the trees. And here we are at the other side of the weir. From a distance, I had presumed that was like some kind of building site, but it seems like it's actually more sort of training, construction and storage kind of thing. Can barely see the river at this point, but it is down there. This is nice. This is very similar to my favourite bit of the Sheffield Tinsley Canal, and in fact very close to it, because these are almost parallel at this point. It's like we're in the middle of an industrial zone, and you can hear it in the distance, but you can't see any of it. It's just you and the river. Some kind of overflow. I don't know what for, whether it's sewage or for the canal that's the other side, or who knows. Oh, very close to the water level here. I imagine this floods quite easily, although there is an option to walk across the road as well. Oh dear. I guess we're taking a little bit of a diversion. Can't go that way. We're going to have to go up on this road instead. So yeah, over there's where I should have been coming from. You can see the locked gate in the background, and then there was a little park. I would have come across this bridge, and then we continue this way. Can you hear it in the distance? It's weir number 3. It is surprisingly quiet out here, but I guess it is Friday afternoon in the middle of a pandemic. This is definitely a good walk for a soggy autumn day because the majority of it is paved. We have to leave the river for a bit here because there's too much industry right up to the bank, so there's not enough room for them to have added a path. So we will go this way and join the river a little later. Sheffield Forge Masters, one of the few remaining places in Sheffield still doing large-scale steel manufacturing. Then we come back onto the river just in time for weir number 4. Giant out of town IKEA over there. Again, it's surprisingly peaceful considering we are now at Meadowhall. But again, I think that's probably got something slightly to do with the global pandemic. And finally, weir number 5. Although while I say "and finally," and this is technically the end of the Five Weirs Walk, you know, it's nowhere near the end of the River Don, That goes on for miles to the northeast to a place called Goole, where it meets the River Ouse, which then eventually joins the Humber before going into the North Sea. So obviously I can't walk that far in a day, but when thinking about this project I couldn't really decide how far I should go. Do I leave it here or do I go a bit further? And eventually I decided I would try and go all the way to Rotherham, which, you know, is about the same distance again, a little bit less. You know, we're about halfway through at this point. And I've been going for a couple of hours, but you know, there's been some stops and starts to do video clips and photos and stuff. And but yeah, the next bench I find, I'm going to have a bit of a break before we continue. So here we've got the river going directly underneath the M1. But on this side, we've also got the Tinsley Canal. So after spending a couple of hours walking down the River Don, I ended up taking a break on the Sheffield Tinsley Canal. Although the river is still here too, it's just behind those trees. They both run very closely together at this point, and you will see why shortly. But yeah, the first half of this ended up being quite a bit longer than I was expecting. I had initially estimated it to be about 6 kilometres, but it was more like 8 or 9. But it should, in theory, only be another 5 kilometres to get to Rotherham, so it shouldn't take quite as long for this next bit, which is good because it's already like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I've spent a little bit longer than I was originally planning to on this, but you know, I'm kind of committed at this point, so I may as well. I was like, I don't know when I'm ever going to get out this far along the River Don again, because there's not really much other reason for doing so except for the sake of walking down the River Don. It seems like a bit of a shame to have to go through the whole lock procedure to go down barely a metre's worth of distance, only then to have to do it again just over there. And I know for a fact that there's 2 more before you get back to the river. And so here we have the River Don and the very start of the Sheffield Tinsley Canal. The river heads back to Meadowhall on this side and continues off to Rotherham on that side, which is where we're going to go. However, this bridge is the furthest I've ever walked down here previously. So once we get to the other side here, this is all brand new territory for me. Although to be honest, we're walking down the Don, a lot of that stuff felt unfamiliar as well. Even though I've been around it, I've never been directly on it and seen things from that angle, and it all seemed really oddly unfamiliar. Graffiti at that scale on a deep riverbank has got to take some doing. So I guess this is technically weir number 6. And officially the River Don goes down there, and over here is another little canal, presumably created because this bit of the River Don isn't easily navigable by boats. The path, however, that I'm following goes down the canal at this point, and there's sort of a like oval shaped, and a lot of the middle I think is just a like wildlife preserve, at least some of it. But yeah, so we will follow the canal and meet up with the Don again shortly. While there's obviously still some industry around, now that we've basically left Sheffield, some parts of this are looking decidedly more like countryside. Oops, had a little bit of a minor disaster in that the drink bottle in my bag didn't have the lid on properly, and so and suddenly I noticed a wet patch on my back, and it's like, oh dear. So that's a bit unfortunate. It seems to have unfortunately shorted out the batteries on my blood sugar meter. Yeah. Hopefully once that dries out it'll be okay again, but otherwise that's not so great. But you know, the views are still nice. And there's the junction. Now we're back on the River Don. We are getting very close to the end of the walk now. You can still see the rivers just down there. So I am getting very close to Rotherham now. You can see more buildings in the background. And yes, once I get to Rotherham station, I'm going to get on a tram train, which is another thing I've not done before, and head back to Sheffield. My original estimation of this walk based on Google Maps data was that it'd be about 11 kilometres, but according to the steps I've done on my watch, it's more like 15. And I've got to admit, I'm a little tired at this point. One last look at the river. My destination's over there.